So we have our next discussion, highly anticipated, designed AI. So I want to introduce the moderator, Iva Skojo, and her interviewee, Megha Sandesh, who's also a sponsor from Solvedex. So we're going to make sure you get one more mic as well. Actually, two mics.
Thank you, everyone. And given that I'm going to be more moderating this, I'm going to have some questions that I had written before. First of all, a little bit more about me. My name is Iva Skojo. I'm originally Croatian, but I grew up between London and New York as well. I went twice to Columbia University, graduated just pre-AI, so it was such a stressful time because I had to do everything on my own. And I took a lot of classes in human-centric design, so that's something that I've been really passionate about. And ever since that, I did a lot of work in venture capital, helping out around 200 startups so far and multiple accelerators I work with and with a lot of Y Combinator founders. But currently, I'm mostly involved with a startup that's called Nimbus Aerospace that's building a hybrid electric physical aircraft and also FAA certification tool. So I was extremely excited to be matched with speaking about something that it's designing in AI, because designing an aircraft with an AI space being involved, trying to accelerate that process, but also actually trying to design it and compete with everyone else and becoming sustainable and figuring out how we can continue growing in this world without crashing systems is a really interesting topic to me. So that's a little bit more about me. And now, Megha, I'm leading it to you to tell us a little bit more about yourself and your amazing company.
Thank you, Eva, for that introduction. So hi, everybody. I'm Megha Sandesh, CEO and co-founder of Solvedex. So we are in the fractional leadership space, and we've helped companies train their own AI systems as well as deploying them and being somewhat of a managed application provider depending on our partner. And recently I've also spun off Solvedex, which is our dedicated design agency, and particularly with the mission to solve the problem that AI poses and to make sure that we're always putting the human experience at the forefront.
Amazing. So yeah, in terms of like a question that I really wanted to ask you specifically, because I guess you have been researching this, you've been studying computer science since 2013. You have like known AI before I had ever heard of it. I'm very curious, what were your predictions? Where are we going to get? And were you estimating at that time, are we ever going to get to the point that a product or technology is going to be designed by like an AI agent on its own? And what were kind of like your doubts about it, but very positive perspectives?
Certainly, thank you for that question. So one of the things that I was noticing even during my student days was the fact that we've gone from many different eras of product design, of industrialization and revolution in technologies that have really affected human lives. So therefore, it was a natural question to ask, where do we stand? And in fact, in the 1980s, in a seminal article in Scientific American, famous scientist Mark Weiser actually basically predicted exactly what we do now, which is multiple devices in various form factors, all of you probably wearing some of them, right? And everything becomes a computer. So every machine just happens to be a computer that just happens to do a few things. So therefore, I pose that the next evolution of that, kind of a prediction, if you will, is we have to ask ourselves, what is creativity, intelligence, and consciousness for the 22nd century, now that we've arrived here?
Tell us a bit more about that. What is the 22nd century?
Indeed. So let's take a step back and look at a little bit of the history. I think you're also somebody that's a fan of it. So if we go all the way back to the Industrial Revolution, that's one of the first times that mankind has ever interacted at such a large scale with machines or have had our lives really shaped by them in some ways, right? And so after that, we've had the personal computing revolution, which brought that to your fingertips. So in each case, what we have to realize is that this was a time when design or user experience were not even terms. Maybe there was a vague mention of human factors and human engineering and so on, but the field itself was ripe and open to be developed. So once we came from that, now that we are here, so now we see that our life is completely shaped, and indeed we can even augment our reality or even create different realities. So therefore, how much of human existence is human existence, and how much are we being productized. So therefore, what is the only thing that is left to indeed commoditize and productize, which kind of came back to my point about the creativity and consciousness.
No, exactly. And I feel like that was so good when we connected first and started, speaking how we can talk about it. And I wrote it like very specifically for us because it's quite evident that machine learning and computer vision will probably never be able to fully automate humans, but they're doing quite a good job. I mean, I have an AI agent that literally sends me a reminder. I just text this Coco, which is called my personal assistant right now on my iMessage, and Coco just tells me, you forgot to read this email, put an alarm here. Like, I don't even need to open any of my applications anymore. So Coco is doing a really good job. But on the back end, it's really interesting. How is a person making sure that the Coco doesn't send the wrong email to someone very unimportantly, which has happened, because Coco has sent like a very important email to someone really badly. So that's something that, like I have seen on my personal load. But like now with your company, what's really amazing is that it seems like you're trying to write that connection of like how to find and recruit and realize when people need to loop in humans on their products. And that's what I'm really interested in. Like, how do you know when you're growing and scaling and your AI agent is doing amazing? Damn, now we need human. Is that, like at what point is that important? And how can we bring that narrative also to everyone? Especially, I spent 3 months now for Y Combinator and SF. Everyone is just like, whichever idea I pitch to someone, they're like, just build an agent, let an agent do it for you. And I'm like, no, I want to like be involved. No, agent can do it. So like, I'm very curious, how do you like with your company and your clients kind of communicate that? And everyone who is the industry leader in this.
So let me start off with this. We do not design for agents at Solvedex and Solvex. I know, and I have helped companies where most of the actual business process revolves around removing humans and replacing them with agents. So it's bots talking to each other. It's agents doing a better job than most other humans would do. But we have to realize that these are processes that are ripe for that kind of automation. So we don't use the words replacing humans. We actually look at it in the context of a broader process, which is a complex interaction to begin with. And therefore, we think of it as automation and the levels of automation. So there is nuance to this discussion that's to be had. Now, let me give you a very, very simple example. Like, nobody is losing sleep over the fact that somebody is using a calculator at their job. Like, a mathematician today uses supercomputers because that's really where we stand in terms of our knowledge and our quest for science and new insight. But nobody's really losing their minds over AI doing the research for them.
Calculator never failed me like this AI agent did, so I trust the calculator.
Which is my point. So why would we punish the human effort in mundane tasks like this, right? So that's always been for the taking, and that's exactly where companies can succeed by automating away these tasks. But when it comes to more complex problems, when you're trying to create something that's creative, maybe you're designing a car, right? So you're trying to create something that's an immersive experience for the human, not just a product by itself. So therefore, the important thing and the motto that we operate by is design by humans for humans.
Yeah, and that's super well said, because I think this is like, and it seems like that everyone here, which I'm really passionate about, is interested about, aerospace, cars, like manufacturing, like what Nick's, like everything is just like so relevant to figure out how we can not just build an AI of an AI for an AI and make a lot of money with that, but like how we can actually use these tools and like how far we have reached in science. And we've been doing like research for so many years that now we can actually automate some processes, but also involve us to make our lives more easy and more better for us. So I've also seen that, in the Nimbus aerospace, what we have been building in our aircraft, is that it's been so interesting to me how AI has been really helpful, but then we had dealt, and I want to hear like some case studies that you have had, like in your clients as well. We had a situation when our, basically, like chief engineering officer who's focused on design, who had like 5 years of building Bombardier, like Raytheon and everything, had tried to do this whole job with AI, and he just gave a comment to ChatGPT and being like, can you try and draw this for me? And then ChatGPT was like, of course that I can, very positive, like, let me see how we can do this together. And then Teva left his computer on for 3 days because it said it needs like 3 days to like draw this out in like 3D model for him. and then nothing worked out. And then he obviously like saw like, wow, for my job, actually, it's like all about this thing where it's like a mix of a research and me reteaching myself how I can do this versus doing it very manually, which in aerospace, sometimes it's just easier as they do it in FAA, like it's just like pen and paper and do it like that. So this is where I'm very curious, like, have you seen case studies like that when you're like, wow, like, how can we actually know that like a human needs to do it versus AI? Is there some data that you know, or like anything else you can share for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of problems that we've solved at our company involved home repairs. So let's say that your house happened to have a leaky roof, then you'd call somebody that would be affiliated with one of our partners. And basically during all of this, we have problems of scheduling the job. We have to think about routing and pathing. And we've also thought about state lines, especially in the United States, where somebody can be performing repairs across different states. Now in the European countries, I would actually extend that problem to include different countries as well. So therefore you have the problem now of international borders. And the way that we actually used AI was in a few different ways to solve a few of these problems, is that we knew that, for example, we can get a perfect solution on paper for the problem of scheduling. However, it doesn't take into account the fact that cars can break down or humans need a nap or a break to actually be efficient at their job. And one of the solutions was to actually produce a suboptimal solution, which actually accounts for all of this. And that actually led to better completion rate and therefore better profits for the small businesses that we've been trying to help. And in another case, as I mentioned, the problem of state and indeed international borders. So we actually used, again, LLM, a variant of the GPT system, to create kind of a micro language model which would work offline and which would actually help people get through the problem of getting licenses, getting permits, and things like these, which would often take weeks on end sometimes. And that actually saved a lot of headaches for back office staff. And that was one of the best things that they were actually appreciative about. But I can tell with confidence that had we not followed our own principles in trying to come up with these, then we would have never thought to stop and think that, hey, actually sometimes the perfect solution is not so perfect for the real world. And you actually have to indeed keep the human in mind and also other real world events in order to make sure that you're doing something optimally, even if not perfectly.
That is so well said. Like, we're basically like have only like 1 minute left. So I just wanted to wrap this up for us because it's also one of the last panels. And it seems like that everyone here, which this is why I love being invited here, actually cares about impact. And your company also cares about impact as well. So like, if you had to wrap to us, the vision of like, what do you want to achieve with the company in the next 5 years, right? Like, it's, what did you say, 22nd century? Like, what is the legacy that you want to leave behind? And what are some of your like actual goals that, you're trying to, and milestone, like cover?
So I'll leave with this, which is one of my favorite quotes is, a problem worthy of attack demonstrates its worth by fighting back. So what we find here is one such problem, I firmly believe, and what we want to create is a better world for humans in an AI-enabled world where the end goal is actually better human connection.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.